I lied to y'all about a lot, actually. One, it wasn't a short break. Two, it wasn't the matchup that I said we were going to get before break. So actually, the matchup before, we ended up having to get that moved. So we ended up picking up one that started at 5, which is why things all got switched around. It's Montgomery area versus Central Bucks South. We are still going down to D2. So I did tell the truth, at least, about that. We are going to be switching things up here a little bit, and we're off the buy-in tier for map number 3. You excited?
Are you lying to me again? Is this another lie? Switching things up and it just goes right back to the same exact map we were talking about? Hey, let's switch things up again. It's a 5v5. Oh, wait. Apparently it's not as well. We're back to the 5-on-4 again, which I feel like for Bind, again, we've seen it work in a couple of those attacking round wins, but we've also seen you kind of have to get enough of a lead on your attack for that then to be manageable for that second half.
Will be interesting to see what can we have as far as agent selects and everything here. We are doing a final check just to make sure. Kind of an unfortunate scenario, really, as far as for CB South. Loaded in with for Montgomery. Loaded in with a full 5. And then one of the players, unfortunately, having some PC issues. So, you know, you got to fight through that. Sometimes just the way the cookie crumbles. So let's go ahead and get down to it. Montgomery area, like we mentioned, will be sitting on the 4. Interestingly enough, I know we don't quite have the composition coming in just quite, but if everything sticks to what they're saying here, interesting 4 with the Omen, the Vise, the Sage, and the Gecko. Thoughts?
You know, work with what you can work with, I guess. It's a whole lot of utility in a meta that's really driven by gunplay right now, but if you need a lot of initiation power, the Arc Rose is good for it on a Sentinel. You get the Berry Orb off your Sage. The Omen is a Paranoia. That's another point of entry, and then everything that the Gecko has is an actual initiator. So there's a lot here to try to cut off sight lines, to remove static positions, to try to flush these players out, but there's nothing really destructive in these kits, right? No explosive ordnance, no mollies, nothing of those sorts, which I think will definitely limit their overall potential for keeping Central Bucks honest on these sites, even honest on their pushes through, because they are starting off on offense, the Central Bucks side is, which means, hey, you want to try to take through showers, there's really nothing that can stop you bar barrier orb. You want to push them down short, there's really nothing there that can stop you besides a barrier orb. Yeah, there's a mosh pit, but that mosh pit, a lot of teams just kind of walk through a lot of times, but it is going to be a little bit harder for them to do that anyways at a player disadvantage, much more so when the utility doesn't really fit alongside it. And it's not going to be an easy road anyways for Montgomery area, especially when they are already 0-1 and their stats coming into this one having their first loss go with 1 round win and 13 losses the other ways. You have to have one team has to reach the 13th. The Central Bucks will lock in their selection, and this is pretty similar to what you kind of expect to see for this map. The only big difference would be that the Neon isn't usually that go-to choice, it is the Raze, but everything else here is actually pretty popular. The Fade kind of steps out a little bit more so for the Sky these days, but I feel like this is a pretty solid agent selection overall.
Let's go ahead and get down to it. We mention it every single time we get things started. It starts with the pistol round, and if we saw anything from our matchup earlier with the 4v5, it felt like that's where our 4s were able to make something happen. Also, one thing I did want to bring up, I guess it's not as important now as it would be for the second half, but I think one thing I do like with the composition, we're seeing here from Montgomery area, when they switch over to the attacker side, as long as your Gecko's up, you can use the Wingman for a plant, which kind of gives you like a pseudo fifth in that sort of way. But let's get down to it here, as it's a quick push here by the Titans. Looking to push right through Uka. They're going to be able to push right on through after that opening frag. All other 3 players are over towards A, so it's space for days as the spike goes down.
Yeah, and there's really nothing they could do besides just try to take TP and get over there. It'll be a really slow move in from Crimson off screen. The rest of the 2 teammates of Justin and Rear God try to move in, but unfortunately, a lot of damage dealt to Justin in the approach, and Rear God is no luckier. As Cronus will try to join the rest of the team down here to mid. It gets a good shot off on the 3rd burst through, but Wagyu gets that refrag, and Central Bucks will get that first round win, which you kind of expect once they were able to get onto site without really much contention and get that spike down early.
Yeah, I feel like really early the opening engagement is going to be huge here for Montgomery area, because if you're able to find that first frag, all of a sudden it's a 4v4, especially if you can click on a head or two and all of a sudden turn things around. You know, one thing we did mention earlier, when you are the 4, being on the reactive side, being on the defense, can be a little bit more stressful, especially once you do start falling behind and you're playing disadvantage in the guns as well. Sort of like we will be seeing Montgomery area stepping into round number 2 in. doesn't mean you don't still have the opportunity. Still have a fighting chance. Scoliosis looking to step on through, but it'll be Maestro who ends up taking him down. And this time around, this side was the one in the 1v3. So they'll have all sorts of room on A.
Ty will have a peek out here through showers. Knows that there is probably someone up towards heaven, but it's a pretty slow movement there from Montgomery area. Cronus will look at their own razor vines in the ground and be like, well, that didn't go exactly where I was expecting it to go. I'll learn from this moment and grow beyond it. Justin trying to peek out. Unfortunately, Maestro saw it coming, and with Cronus now falling, it's just Rear God alone. And they are not too sure where to look or how to process this 1v5. Just trying to make this round costly. That's what you're hoping for. That's what you're hunting for. So you want to try to isolate a single player with a good sight line. And though you do clip the kneecap of Maestro, unfortunately, this is not an Elder Scrolls game. This is Valorant. It does not matter. 7-6-2 is not the saying. And Central Bucks will get to a 2-0 start and use that as a way to continue to ride this momentum forward in offense.
See if they can continue pushing things on forward. Of course, round number 3 brings the rifles into play, especially a little, well, I guess they did buy a little bit in that last round, didn't they? So only the Guardian will be in hand for Scoliosis here, unfortunately. And since we do see a couple of buy-ups, especially thinking that op in hand for Maestro, just lets me know that as far as for the side of Central Buck South, the Titans will continue to play their game despite the fact that they are in the man advantage. And I always say I feel like that's the way that you prefer to go. Justin almost finds a way to pick up one, then transfers over too soon and gets put down by Wagyu. Rear God gets identified up in heaven as well, and we'll have to fall back as Ty trying to take him out.
Ooh, what a shot there as well from Ty. All 5 players still standing, but 2 are exceptionally low for Central Bucks, which could very well even out these odds. Another sheer sent high. They're trying to put that one up and over towards Cubby. But Scoliosis has a great flank worming their way through shorts. And is able to knock Ty off their rocker. Chance more now as Maestro. It's an operator shot into the distance, rings true for that refrag, and Alex crawls through metal and up to the side heaven to deal with that final player. 3-0 start for the Central Bucks, and the defense is still trying to find their feet out from underneath them, even with the difficulties that lay in front of them. It does not seem like the Central Bucks are going to slow down how methodical the approach is, even knowing that they have that theoretical advantage.
Here's the challenge that you do have when you are the 4 in 4v5 is staying disciplined in your buy, right? Because like when you don't have enough money, you feel like you need to force because you're still the 4. But now even more so, you're never going to get the full buy as a 4. You're going to have, you know, a hero rifle and Rear God. You'll have a Guardian instead of a Vandal in the hands of Scoliosis. Maybe that's what they're comfortable with, but Scoliosis will also be the first one to fall. So even more so of a tough situation to find yourself in the mid-round here in round number 4. Ty takes down Justin, which means Rear God, the last one left alive, but they were over on B. So at this point, it's kind of just a Hail Mary play.
Yeah, what do you do in a 1v5 if you're Rear God? One thing I do want to point out is a big thing I think that a lot of players at any level really should worry about. But if you're Rear God at that moment, we've seen it a couple times. If you're in a spot where you have to take into a fight and you know there's players around that bend, just slow crawl it. Keep that crosshair high, slow crawl that as much as you want. Go pixel by pixel if you have to, because that first shot is arguably the most valuable and you want to prep yourself for it as best as possible. The Montgomery area cannot collect through round 4 and unfortunately could not pass go in the process of it, so don't get any extra credits for any kills. And Central Bucks, with all the success that they've had in these last 4 rounds, really off towards the A site. Well, looky here. It looks like they're going to start hitting B this time around.
I love it. Let's use the time to practice your different execs while you have the advantage here. Why not? Alex is going to be able to find the first one. Ty peeks up around the corner. We'll be able to take Justin down. And the 2 that were established over here at B for Montgomery area, taken down quick, fast, and in a hurry. They'll push their way quickly through portal. But I mean, their location has already been given away. There's no way of being sneaky about this.
Yeah, the huge audio cue about it. Now utility trying to go out in their hands, and Ty, who already picked up 1 kill early in the round, succeeds for the final 2 as well to give themselves that 3K, and it's another flawless now for Central Bucks, a team that was already, you know, tearing through competitive teams here in the division for Division 2. but doing so now again in an area where they have to worry about it being a 4v5, it's hard pressed for them to really question the way they move forward. You can tell they're super confident. They're aiming right. They have an operator on offense, which is not something you typically see very often. They haven't really had to worry about ultimates. They really used one before. It's just a way to close that gap even quicker. They are saying speed is king, and we may be a little bit young for the movie Speed Racer, but that is a wholly unrated movie, and we're going to make sure we can bring back a little bit of that pizzazz here, but we do lose finally a player off the board. A great shot from the Marshal from rear guard. It keeps that crosshair perfectly level for it.
It's a third frag here as far as for the side of Montgomery area, trying to start to pick up a little bit of momentum. Scoliosis maybe can find two. That's 2 in a round, starting to pick up some heat here as Wagyu right on the other side, who will be able to find the draw and then turns right around to heaven, puts rear guard down, which leaves Justin as the last one alive, rotating their way through Link. But those were some loud stomps. Gave Wagyu the indication to turn right around, and well, there you go. Nice and easy as they move up to 6.
Yeah, they cost them a couple players this time, though, but with the lack of kills in the prior rounds, unfortunately, the credits will not really be a point of contention. It's not really much of a talking point for Central Bucks. You turn the other way, Montgomery area have been at the peak of losers bonus. You get extra credits the more rounds in a row you lose, folks. Eventually, that loss bonus reaches a maximum, and they've been there for a little bit. In Montgomery area will still be forced despite that into an eco round, and so they'll have to buy up. Justin still goes for a Phantom, saying, you know, if I'm already going to get eviscerated by the 5.56 or 7.62 from the Central Bucks side, I might as well go a little bit crazy with it and bring out a rifle. Scoliosis is trapped within that orbital strike, and this is, we saw a little bit in the prior series, used as an attempt to flush players out of an area. Scoliosis just sticks within it, and then the rest of the team tries to hold strong behind it, and that just will not matter when Central Bucks do exactly what they have done. Get in through Hookah, get onto site, and then cut off the rotate back in from the TP players and that bottom mid player.
Another quick round, man. They are absolutely speed running things over on that Titan side, as looking solid, and they're doing fast. XX, and they're doing a great job as far as finding those first picks as well. It's gotta be frustrating here from this Montgomery area squad, but I do gotta say I like to see that they're still giving it the good old college try. They're not just simply, you know, stepping away from the controllers and letting the rounds play out. At the end of the day, you try and make yourself 1% better each day, and you control what you can control. So for the 4, you just, you know, take it one round at a time.
Everything has to go step by step. You can't sprint before you learn to crawl, and you can't crawl before you haven't even figured out where you are. But I have a good idea that Montgomery area have a good understanding about where they should play in for these early fights. It's just these early fights are very quickly happening a lot sooner than maybe they anticipate. Cinder Bucks, their speed they get through those barriers once they drop on the start of these rounds is unreal. And they're just holding down that sprint key, and the guns they're using are greatly assisting that as well. Just holding down the spray button as they move. Wagyu with a great connection to the head of Justin. Maestro instantly eviscerating rear guard, and a Molly goes in afterwards as well. It's just Cronus, and Cronus has always moved in from Spices, and now goes with a Steel Garden, and is trying to close that gap. But Maestro, guess what? It's a chamber with a headhunter, and that can always be pulled out because it's an ability, and that's 8 rounds in a row for Central Bucks.
They continue to look pretty darn good over there. I mean, you only have one player who has fallen more than once over the course of 8 rounds. They really doing a great job of making sure they're staying up, and again, doing a great job of these XX. It's been clean. I can't even help but feel that even if Montgomery area had a 5, with as clean as these rounds have been looking for Central Bucks South, I don't know how much of a difference that extra player would have really made. CB South looks nice.
We were already saying that it felt like the Bucks were going to go well, that Central Bucks were going to be the team to look at. 13 rounds, won, 5 lost in their prior series. They were the statistical leader against, 1 round win with 13 losses that Montgomery area had in their last series. But they're coming into this one already with a chip off their shoulder for that victory, and now having that player advantage. It just seems like another day in the office, and they're not even needing to worry about a 9 to 5. Stop worrying about a 9 to 5. Worry about your your first semester classes and all the tests you have to go through. This one, not much of a test either way. Alex with a quick spray through for both, and Central Bucks will get 9 round wins now in a row. I think it's like their 4th or 5th flawless, if not more than that. At a certain point, it's just Central Bucks doing what they know they have to do and succeeding. And keep in mind, this is all with Mickey only having 1 kill and 1 death throughout all of this. The rest of the team, Alex, Wagyu, and Maestro, are just sprinting to the finish line.
We had seen them kind of joking in the pregame lobby that this was like LARPing as a 5v4 because they had said their one was pretty new. But hey, you know what? Every rep matters, and everyone starts off somewhere. So big shout out to Mickey for still coming out and holding it down for the pound. As far as for the Central Buck South, I mean, still a 1.0 KD, can't really ask for too much more. Maestro's going to be able to find an opening pick here as it's going to be Cronus who finds 1-2. Unfortunately, though, it's just Scoliosis and Rear God as the last two. As Ty says, one more down with the shorty is Scoliosis. Last one left.
Oh, there's the judge. Makes it the jury and executioner, and there's your finisher. As Alex will also just self-destruct there for a moment with a molly down below. It happens sometimes for Brims, but you know, we blame Riot for that one. Truly, we're like, hey, you nerfed our stim. Now we feel like we have to take drastic measures and send mollies into dangerous corners because our guns can't do as well. But Central Buck South up to double digits. We call this the checkpoint and chokehold for a lot of teams. A lot of teams will struggle once they reach the double digits, and that's when other teams go, hey, we really got to kick it into high gear. But that also would require Montgomery area to really start to find that solution very early on. The shotguns aren't a bad idea. The Barry Orb here from Scoliosis would stall out maybe a little bit of that push, but unfortunately, like we've said, the Central Buck South roster just comes in with such fervor that it feels like an impossibility to keep them at bay.
It seems like an impossible task. Maestro able to pull out the op and getting a little fancy with it. The op with the tour de force feels a little overkill, but you know what? Go off, I suppose. 11 in a row here to start off our final matchup of the day on PIEA 01. Which, speaking of, it's first time through, make sure you smack that follow button down the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. Turn those notifications on. We're slowly starting to creep towards that midway point of our fall semester. And we do have PIEA high school action Monday through Thursday across a couple of our channels. But let's go ahead and see if CB South have the ability to complete a perfect tap.
One away from everything. Prowler through. Scoliosis was sitting stalwart. You see the attempt there, Kirill, to try to hold strong, but unfortunately not able to get the shots to connect afterwards. And a very swift last round of that first half. And 12 rounds here for Central Buck South. One away as we're now at match and series point in this best of ones. The Montgomery area now gets to do something they haven't been able to do the last 12. Take an objective on their terms. Do we see them try what we've seen Central Bucks do and win every single time? The sprint to sight. Do we see them go for a default and try to play a passive game to pick apart these kills and even out those odds?
You know, I don't know if I like the idea of the 3-1 split here. You're already at a disadvantage. Might as well just try and load the eggs in one basket and full push onto one side, but maybe, just maybe, Scoliosis can create enough noise over here towards Shower. Cause this squad to rotate over and give them the opening that they need to be able to get the plant towards B. The shots by the shorty right as the doors go down, though, maybe give Wagyu the impersonation that, or the impression that they are rotating that way. But it's an early takedown of Scoliosis means they know that's going to be a push on B.
Well, prep here from Montgomery area. The 3 players left. Alex will try to work within a sky smoke. They level 4 themselves. Round the bend, the shorty gets the one click to the head, and Justin is setting up that dark cover, but he sent this too far, and unfortunately, no way to cover that spike whatsoever there. And Central Bucks will go ahead in this series to win it out 13-0 to make their round victory so far a 26-5 in difference for their round counts. This is a team that will be very hard to beat, and one, once again, like we said for our first series of the night, Q, one that I think you have to keep an eye out for.
For sure, want to be keeping an eye out on the Titans when it comes to D2 Valorant. Want to give a big shout out, though, one more time to Montgomery area. An unfortunate situation. You showed up with the 5. All of a sudden, the PC has issues. You got to try and control what you can control. So hopefully they'll be able to dust this one off and then try it again next week. But that is it. 3 done and dusted, all on Bind. I'm sorry we weren't able to keep things a little bit fresher for y'all that were watching, but we can only control what we can control as far as production as well. But before we get out of here on the night, any final thoughts from what we saw today?
No, I think we had, for all intents and purposes, and for every little, small issue that can arise, it's esports, not traditional sports. We call those the technical issues, like the rain delays and the thunder delays of the esports community. It's going to happen. It's just Mother Nature's version of it. Maybe it's a solar hotspot. That's going to be an oldie reference. I don't even want to bring that one up. That's an old speedrunning reference. Maybe it's one of those just crazy things that happens. It is what it is, especially in a game like Valorant, where you do have to worry about BIOS issues and, kernel side anti-cheat, other things. They're great for a reason, but they can also come with their own problems. You got to work with it. And honestly, good for all the teams today that worked through those 4v5s. Much respect to you. I personally, if you can't play an esport, can't handle it, you cast it instead. I'm sure you're the same way, Q. we just deal with it on the production side of it. We couldn't handle it as players.
For sure. And as I mentioned before, we have some more esport action for PIEA throughout the rest of the week. Got Marvel Rivals as well as Fortnite tomorrow, and then we have our Night Owl streams where we bring you some collegiate action from some of our college partners like Waynesburg, as well as so a couple of our other schools as well. So kind of like St. Francis. So appreciate y'all coming in and hanging out with us as far as for today. And, Inferno, always a blast to be able to run it up with you. But of course, we do have the easy job. We get to show up, get excited about Pixels. Got to make sure we're giving big shout out to Haza working the backgrounds, giving us the vibes, giving us the views, giving us the story to tell. And until we do catch y'all back over here for the next one, man, do me a favor. Make sure you don't forget, with everything crazy going on in the world today, be true, be you, be sincere, game hard and love harder. All right, y'all, that's Inferno. I'm Q for the rest of the crew here from the front to the back. Y'all have a great rest of your week. Peace.